Susan Gardner here for Municipal World. We're at the 2019 Transforming Local Government Conference in Reno, Nevada. Joining us in our media center here is Katy Simon Holland. Among other things, Katy is the former county manager for the county of Washoe, Nevada. And we're so happy to have you here with us. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me, Susan. It's great to be here, and we're certainly glad you're here in our town. So nice to have you.
We are loving it. We've not any of our team been to this part of the continent before, so we're excited to see all the stuff here, and we're learning a lot too.
Good. Well, it's a very up and coming area with, of course, with Tesla and with Switch and with Apple and Microsoft and lots of startups and lots of entrepreneurial activities here. So it's changing. A lot of new energy.
Yeah, very exciting. So I wanted to. You have history with the Alliance, a former board member and the interim CEO as well. So talk about what you see as the value of the Alliance, what the Alliance brings to local governments.
Well, when I first got back into local government, I was a management analyst many, many years ago. We won't say what years, but when I came back into local government in the 90s, it was clear to me that there were some governments in North America who were thinking of things differently. And they were pushing the envelope about how we could change processes, how we could change relationships with citizens, how we could change the culture of the organizations. And all of those organizations seemed to belong to this thing that was then called the innovation groups. And I was very intrigued by what was happening here. And so came to a few of the sessions, came to some regional forums, participated in some case study analysis, ended up on the board, and then stayed on the board for, I think, 14 years. Served as the chair of the board. And during all of that time, I was at Washoe County, but it gave me the opportunity to really have a broad base of information about who was doing innovative things and what were the things they were doing that were different from what other people were doing elsewhere. So I really found a home here, and then I was the chair of the Alliance board when we became the Alliance. We had been in conversations with ICMA, International City County Management Association, and Bob O'Neill, who was then the executive director of ICMA, said, we're going to have to create something that is more nimble than ICMA can be and able to respond to changing technology, changing expectations of customers. And so we put out a bid to find a university that would partner with us, and we became the alliance with Arizona State University, ICMA, and what was previously the Innovation Group. So it was a very exciting time.
That's amazing. That's a great story.
Yeah, very exciting.
Joel Carnes, CEO of the Alliance, was talking today about, kind of this concept of closed innovation where, groups and open innovation. And I feel that's, really essential to what the Alliance does.
Absolutely. And definitely building that ecosystem. And of course, we at the Alliance have always felt that the concept of innovation is the creative idea applied to solving a problem or enhancing an opportunity that adds value for the people you're serving. And it's most valuable when I'm not only innovating and applying it for the benefit of the people I serve directly, but applying it to build the capacity of the entire profession to better serve the people that we're trying to help. So
yeah. I liked what he said, and it's really echoed in what you've said, that we really are, if we're all committed to good local government, as the folks here are, we're all in it together, and we are better together. So
that's right.
It's a great
And of course,
approach.
None of us have the corner on the market of all of the great thinking about, how these things can be done. It's and one of the things that's been wonderful for me is to take the innovation process that we have taught in the Innovation Academy and try to to apply it to whatever process I'm trying to work on. I'm now an elected official. I am elected to a school board here locally, and trying to use that same process of identifying and gaining consensus around what's the problem we're trying to solve. Let's use some human-centered design thinking to think about all the solutions that would work to solve that problem. And just today, while I've been here, I sent an email out to a big policy think tank in our state and said, what if we tried to bring some people together around this particular problem? And they said, let's do it.
That's
So,
fantastic.
Yeah, it's
That's
always building, always building.
the power of partnerships and collaboration, right?
Absolutely.
That's great. So I wanted to maybe touch on your ideas around women in local government, maybe the challenges that you see, and obstacles,
You bet. Yeah.
opportunities, solutions.
Well, of course, here in 2019, it's a wonderful opportunity for women. Local government is a great place for women to bring skills that they can share with others in convening and collaborating and facilitating and bringing people together. There weren't as many women in local government, high level positions when I became county manager in 1998, and there were, I think, maybe 10 or so women of similar sized organizations nationally.
Wow.
Yeah, its population now of about 450,000. It was close to 400,000 population here, and there just weren't very many women at those levels.
Do you know what those numbers look like today in comparison?
Well, what's interesting, so ICMA has done some studies, and I think it's like 13% of the senior positions were women 30 years ago, and it's only about the same percentage now, which is
a little discouraging.
It is, and so there's a huge movement by ICMA and others, the state organizations, to have women go into those senior positions. What we find is that women will go to the assistant manager position, but then are often
That's the ceiling?
and some of that's by choice. And
Yeah.
I'll share, certainly my story.
Yeah.
So I was a single mom for part of that, and it's tough. It's tough.
It's a big job.
It's a big job. A lot of night work, a lot of weekends, a lot of certainly, being the emergency manager or the head of the incident command when there's a major emergency 24/7,
There's a lot of
365
hats.
days a year.
Yep.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad choice for women to say, I'm gonna get to the second level because I can get a lot done, I can fly under the radar, I don't have to be the one standing in front of the council or the board taking the heat. And there's also a lot more longevity at that level, and people can stay in the position.
Going to necessarily face as many forced transitions
Right,
to other
right.
organizations and so on.
Yeah, and people, make that choice for their own quality of life. So I don't think that's necessarily bad. And I'm glad that women do go up the ladder, at least, to that level. There are quite a few more city and county managers now who are female that I'm aware of. And I don't know how the ICMA data qualified the positions that they were measuring, but it is a point of research that ICMA is working on.
Okay.
Wanting to be more inclusive and inclusive not just of women, but of age and ethnicity and
All kinds of
disability and
diversity in the workplace.
yeah.
So, from your experience, what do you see as possibly obstacles? I mean, beyond the commitments of, the position at times.
Yeah, there were certainly. I hope that our culture is changing a bit, but there were times that, I tell this to younger women and they just can't believe it. I mean, I worked for a board of county commissioners, and one of the elected commissioners would give me a numerical score on my appearance every day.
Oh boy.
Would come into my office and say, oh, "Oh, that dress is so matronly. You're a 7 today." To my face.
Wow.
Yeah. I had another elected official. I was making a big presentation regarding a bond issue that we had to get approval for, $120 million bond issue. I was talking about all the net present value and the debt coverage ratios, and so I made my presentation, and I'd been wearing a red outfit and red shoes, and I was walking out, and I was getting ready to walk out, and I said, are there any other questions? And this one elected official from our region said, "No, but Katy, I just love the red shoes."
Oh boy.
And I had just been talking about all of this really high level financial, management stuff, and so I just reached down and I took the shoes off and I threw them away and I walked out.
I thought maybe you would have given them to him. There you go.
No, but just some of those things, it's just appalling the kinds of things that happened. And I know they still do happen. I think it's a little better than it used to be, but in a lot of places it's not. And I think, so women still do have those challenges. I think one of the other challenges that I have is that I'm petite. And I've, thank heaven for much of my life, I've looked youthful, and can't say that anymore, but really the sort of patting on the head, kind of, and literally being pat on the head, running an $800 million enterprise.
It's discouraging as a professional to think, right, that kind of reaction to your work would somehow be perceived by anyone as appropriate.
So, you just get a thick skin. You get a thick skin, you get broad shoulders, you learn how to call people on it in a humorous way so that it doesn't go unacknowledged, but we don't have to make people feel criticized all the time. I mean, but it definitely needs to be remarked upon. And there are still, as we know, lots of bullies in
Absolutely.
in government and elsewhere. So I think women to learn how to deal with those situations is a real challenge in the profession. I think another thing that's a challenge for women, there's nothing neutral we can do. Our hairstyle isn't neutral. People make impressions based on our hairstyle, whether we wear makeup or not, what jewelry we have on, clothing, of course. Whereas men have lots of neutral ways they can be present. There is a uniform. There's an open collar shirt and slacks that men can wear, and it's just neutral. But if I wear an open collar shirt and slacks only, that tells people something that they might be making interpretations about. If I wear a dress, if I wear pearls, if I, all of those things for women signal something that we don't necessarily intend to be understood and interpreted by others. So again, just challenges in our culture for women to have people be able to look past whatever is my physical presence that I'm appearing as, and hear my words and get my worth and my talent.
Absolutely. So important that we keep having conversations and sharing stories like this too, so that there's an awareness and some strategies, like you've suggested, for women to deal with situations they might encounter that could be shocking, in fact, and unanticipated in professional context. Yeah,
and I think there are women, and I think age is part of it. I think culture is part of it. That there are some women who say, "Well, that's your problem. If you're interpreting me in a way that is negative based on how I look or how I dress, that's your problem." And I'm kind of old school. If I want to convince you of something, you're the audience of my communication, my leadership. I need to meet you halfway. I can't come into the conversation with my hair spiked and piercings all over my face and a tattoo on my cheek, and assume that it's your problem to understand me past that. even though I have the right to dress that way and to appear that way, it has consequences. So I want to be understood. I want to be listened to. I have to meet people halfway.
So it's a kind of give and take.
Absolutely.
To a certain degree.
I think I was just going to add one other thing that I've learned along the way, is that oftentimes women don't go up the ladder because we just don't feel ready. And in fact, I was just having a conversation with an individual at lunch about, gosh, I'm not ready to go up to that point. And my advice has always been, if you think you're ready, you're not paying attention. You should never feel quite ready, but you should push yourself to take those challenges and to go up to the next step and say, I'm ready to learn what I need to learn. I may not be fully capable. And we know this research about women,
Sure.
A male and a female applicant for the job who are similarly qualified, oftentimes the male will feel way more qualified and the woman will feel way less qualified, even if they're equally qualified.
And that male applicants often, feel quite comfortable putting their,
Yes.
their resume forward, even though they lack many of the things that are requested.
Yes.
Where women, feel they perhaps have to have 90% of the things that are
Right.
being asked for.
Yeah, so we have to push ourselves. We have to try to step up. I certainly did not feel qualified to be the best county manager when I stepped up for the job. And in fact, when I got appointed, I had served as the interim county manager for a period of time, and I was ready to welcome a national search. If there's somebody better at this, please, come on down. I'll show you where your parking space is, and
I'll support you.
Yes, because I wanted the best for our organization.
Yeah.
I wanted the absolute best person to be there, and if it was someone else, I was happy to welcome them. So it was funny that I did end up getting appointed by the board without a national search, but I didn't feel ready, but I was.
And I think your track record kind of speaks for itself that
Well,
you
thank
made the
you.
right decision.
Thank you.
Thank you so much
Well,
for
thank you for
coming in
having
and
me.
Sharing your insights. That's so appreciated.
Oh, happy to be here. Thanks, Susan.
I'm Susan Gardner for Municipal World. We share your stories.